Let's now talk about policy or policies. Why do there are pros and cons? Why do companies or management make why does management make policies? Because it doesn't have to think again for the same kind of decision. When it has to make a decision, it doesn't have to have a meeting and discuss it again and again. It anticipates and then it frames rules, guidelines, or policies so that a similar situation can be dealt with automatically without having to discuss it, because you have made a rule, a guideline, or a policy. So when the same decision, a similar decision has to be taken, it can be taken automatically because you already codified it, you documented it, that this is how we do things, this is what we do, this is what we don't do, this is how we do, this is how we don't do. So then you have made it once, so then it can be repeated, it can be replicated, and you don't have to work hard for every decision. You don't have to keep on discussing and wasting time. So it makes it easy to take decisions. Secondly, it is a control tool, because then across the organization people will be following those policies and rules. So the way you have framed those policies, decisions will be taken in accordance. So you are controlling the way things are happening, decisions are happening. And it also gives you continuity and uniformity. There is uniformity across decision making. So the entire organizations, wherever decisions are taken, there is similarity, that this is the way we do things around here, this is our policy. So all decisions follow that policy, and so there is similarity in decisions, there is consistency, there is continuity, there is uniformity. So these are the positive aspects, and they are even documented. There are manuals, where policy manuals, HR, including human resource, there could be HR policy manuals, there could be policy manuals in other areas also. Some people go to a great extent in drafting these policies. And when I was a fresh MBA, I also believed a lot in this thing, that everything should be policy based or policy backed. Decisions should be policy based or policy backed. Decisions should be scientifically taken. There should be scientific management. Management should be policy based, data driven, data based, and all that. But after some experience, I realized that there is a downside to this also. Firstly, management is not actually a science in the sense that physics or chemistry and all those natural sciences are. It's about human beings, and you can't take laws of natural laws or fundamental laws of nature, and that sort of thing is not available in social sciences like management, which is again a combination of various things like psychology, sociology, and all those aspects. So you can't apply one rule to every human being. You can simply do a survey and you will find that somebody believes in this thing, somebody believes in something else. Many people are motivated by money, some people are not motivated by money. So you can only have that kind of a percentage game, that maybe a majority or 50% or 40% believe in this and 60% don't believe in this, or 70% believe in this and 30% don't believe in this. That's all that you can do. It doesn't apply uniformly like the law of gravity. It is very precise. The law of gravity is very precise, very mathematical, absolute precision, no change. And it is predictable, it will happen uniformly, it will never change, and you can predict how it will happen precisely. That doesn't happen in management. So management is not science. So any attempt to make it too scientific doesn't work, because ultimately all you can do is, because human beings are different and they don't think alike, there are dissimilarities and there are similarities. So you can't make laws of management like you can have laws of physics or fundamental sciences. So sometimes even data is not available, structured data is not available to take decisions. Real life is too complicated, too messy. You want to apply mathematical equations and rules and laws, but you need to, even to apply those equations or rules, you need that precise information, mathematical information, and those numbers are not available. There are laws for there are formula for inventory control. There is something called inventory carrying cost should be root to FD by C. That is how it is calculated. But you have to put in the numbers for FD and C: order cost, demand, and inventory carrying cost. EOQ is root to FD by C. But when you go to real life, you have to actually work out order cost. Demand is, again, you have to find out what demand is. It varies a lot. Inventory carrying cost is not precise, you have to calculate it. So it is, in a textbook it is all given, and you simply put those numbers into the equation, and voila, you get the result. In real life it is too messy. Structured systematic data is not available, and there is a lot of variation. So these models, textbook models, mathematical models that you try to develop, quantitative models, don't always work. They are not precise, they don't capture the complexity of real life. So data is not available, so sometimes database decision making becomes hard. There is not enough science. Management is not actually a science in the strictest sense of the term. There's a lot of art or judgment and skill, and that part is also involved. So it's not that simple. So I realized that my initial enthusiasm for policy and data and scientific management and mathematical model and quantitative model, because I came from an engineering background, that was initially I was too enthusiastic about that. But real life is a bit messy, and we have seen that there are certain decisions where they are not programmed, where they are uncertain, data is not available, and you have to still take those decisions, and you have no formula to tell you. Something new happens for which you hadn't even anticipated that this thing is going to happen. So these things do happen. There is a lot of uncertainty, lot of unpredictability, and the future is uncertain, and things change, and you can't predict them. You can't simply take the past and extrapolate it and say the future is going to be exactly like this. It doesn't happen like that, never. So there are always some changes. So these things are a bit difficult. So there are limitations to policy and data and scientific management and database decisions. Sometimes you have to take decisions with insufficient data. Not much scientific quantitative stuff is available, or models are available to help you in taking those decisions. Too much policy making would mean that everything then becomes too rigid, and so then when you make things too rigid, you are stifling innovation and initiative. Everybody should mechanically follow those rules. So then ambitious employees, people with initiative, cannot do anything. They find that it is all like mechanical. They are simply following instructions. And secondly, I mean, it is easy for some employees because they don't have to keep on asking top management what to do. The policy is there, they simply follow the policy. So they don't have to go and check. And it becomes, for them, taking decisions become easy because somebody has decided that this is how this particular decision will be taken. This is what we'll do, this is what we'll not do, this is how we'll do. So for a junior level employee, it becomes very easy. He doesn't have to think for himself. He doesn't have to ask top management again and again. He simply has to follow policy. So that way it is a good thing. Again, there is continuity and uniformity. That way his task is done. But the problem is, when you make these rules and guidelines, you are never able to capture all the essence of reality complete, because something will happen which you had not thought of. Some new situation will arise, something will happen for which your policy had not envisaged that kind of a scenario. So what to do? So then you again have to have a discussion. For every decision you need a policy, but then there are cases for which that you hadn't even anticipated, and there is no policy to deal with those cases. Then what to do? You wait for a policy to be made. That takes a lot of time because the top management has to get involved and meetings will happen, and so unless there is a policy, the decision can't be taken. Each decision has to have a policy behind it. So that's a problem, and you hadn't even thought about it. Secondly, things are quite different in a very large company, in a very big company with, let us say, head office somewhere else, other places somewhere else, multiple locations and all that. Things are happening and the top management is sitting somewhere else. They don't know the reality, and sometimes decisions, policies that they have made do not make sense. You feel that the guy dealing with the situation might feel that this policy is wrong. It is restrictive, it is not the best decision in this particular case, but somebody has made that policy, so he can't challenge it. And policy becomes a tool to say no. It becomes an excuse for not doing something or doing something and all that. It just becomes an excuse. This is not our policy, that is not our policy. So it becomes a suboptimal affair where you don't take the best decisions because the policy doesn't allow you to take those decisions. And people sitting somewhere else, too far away from you, or in some other place, or policies which were made long ago, had not thought of these situations, had not adequately planned for these things, were not incorporated, were not envisaged. So then you end up making bad, wrong, suboptimal, improper decisions, and that's when it hurts. The people who are taking those decisions feel that it is too rigid, it is not giving them a chance to exercise their own initiative, and in which case, in fact, it will be good for the company to listen to them and let them take that decision, to empower them, and because they know what is the reality, and in this particular situation this is the right decision. So sometimes the other approach, ad hocism, taking decisions ad hoc, case to case basis, on a contingent basis, contingency kind of thinking, works better. So there is a fine line between policy making and ad hocism. How much to do, what to do is again a very tricky question. You should not be in a hurry to make policies too quickly. And once you make policies, again, you should not be in a hurry to change those policies. If you are rushed into making policies, rushed into policy making, then maybe you will make half-baked policies and you will have to change them again, because you will realize that these are not optimum decisions that these policies are giving you, because you didn't think through. So don't be in a hurry to make policies. And once policies are made, then try to stick with them. I mean, don't change them too quickly. So again, it's a very complex scenario. How much initiative to allow, how much ad hocism to allow, how much empowerment to give, how much, of course you are losing control because you're allowing people to take decisions, but that way you are encouraging innovation, initiative and all that. So there is motivation for people who are ambitious and want to have decision making authority, power and responsibility. So you are doing that, plus good decisions are made sometimes, because those guys are not dumb, they are making maybe good decisions, though the policy does something else. So sometimes making too many rules and too many complex procedures and guidelines and all that stifles things, slows things down, results in suboptimal decision making also. And so again, how to interpret policies? Should that be a rigid rule, a law sort of a thing, that this is it, no change, or should it be interpreted like a guideline sort of a thing? So again, it's a very complex thing. It takes a lot of skill and judgment and sensibility and good sense and wisdom, how to draft those policies, how to put those words exactly. We have these issues in law also, that this is the law, is it very clear, or it can be interpreted differently? So how you word certain things, how you make a law or a rule or a guideline, or how to use it as a guideline or not, or it has to exactly follow the letter and spirit and something of that sort. So that is something that requires a lot of skill, lot of judgment, lot of experience. And a young organization should not be in too much of a hurry to make, fresh out of college, you are all thinking about, let's make it very systematic and scientific and data based and all that, and make lots of rules and regulations. And that's going to be very complicated, because it will not be flexible. The flexibility will go away, which a young organization needs, a small organization needs. So, and it becomes too bureaucratic. And businessmen are interested in results, and bureaucrats are interested in processes and procedures. They don't care much about the outcome. They care about the process that is followed or the procedures. They are happy if process is followed and procedure is followed. Result is good, bad, ugly doesn't really matter to them. The businessman cares for results. So one has to have the right balance. Otherwise, too much of policy making can paralyze you and paralyze the organization in a sense, make it very slow, very bureaucratic, very rigid. And too much ad hocism also means there is chaos. So it's a fine line, and that is where the skill comes in. That is where the science management becomes more of an art rather than science, where and these things have to keep changing also. I mean, today you became more of a policy driven company, tomorrow you became less of a policy based company, then again you changed. So things may have to be more dynamic in that sense. Thank you.